Peace world. Thanks for pressing play on another Pay Me No Mind sports and entertainment clip. I really wanted to get on here and show some love to a hip hop veteran and a really dope project that's been released that was off of my radar a bit. I know the album came out, but I finally had the chance to check it out, and I really felt like it deserved being showcased and to be having some light shined on it. And I'm sure the major outlets that kind of deal with traditional hip hop and whatnot, a lot of them covered it. I was able to find quite a few things on the album before getting into this, but let's talk about it. The veteran MC is Masta Ace, and then there's also it's a collaboration with, I believe he's a Toronto-based producer named Polo, a guy that I've been checking out some of his sound here and there, and I'll get to that in a minute. But this album dropped, A Breukelen Story. It dropped back in November of 2018, and I knew it was out there, but just in the last 3 weeks, I want to say the video for Get Shot came up on my news feed, or whatever the hell they call it, in Facebook, and just watching the opening seconds of the video, I clicked onto it and watched it in its entirety, and Marco Polo's production, grabbed me, and really grabbed my attention and kept me there. And then listening to once Masta Ace goes in, then I'm like, dang, he's still lyrically sharp, and I'd heard some stuff on Sirius XM radio during the lead up to the album being released. I think they did a live set on one of the channels. So anyway, a couple days later, I recently started subscribing to a streaming service, and I was like, let me check out that whole album. And I'll tell you, man, I've been pleasantly surprised. And I really feel like in many ways, A Breukelen Story is kind of Masta Ace's 444 by Jay-Z. I know it's not as slick, it's not as over the top, it's not as box office, I guess, is what we would consider coming from Jay-Z. In some regards, it's not as bold in terms of speaking out against some of the issues plaguing the community. But if you take some time and listen to this album a few times, you'll see that a lot of things, it's a lot of social commentary, it's a lot of you got to take into consideration, Masta Ace came out over 30 years ago. The Symphony dropped with Marley Marl, and Masta Ace had the lead off verse with I'm going brain dead here. Had the lead off verse with Kool G Rap, Craig G, and the great Big Daddy Kane. And here it is, that was like I said, 88. And here we are in 2019, and Craig G hasn't released a lot since then. Kool G Rap has had some moments here and there, and then Big Daddy Kane has really picked up in terms of touring and making appearances and kind of reestablishing himself, but no real studio albums. But here's Masta Ace with this really dope project. Another one that I would throw this up to, as a comparable, would be, Nas just came, an older rapper. Masta Ace is 51 years old, I believe he says on the album, or he was at the time that this was released. But if you listen to Nas's The Lost Tapes 2, and then you check out this project, and you add a couple of years on, Nas is in his mid 40s, I believe, early mid 40s maybe. But if you put these two albums side by side, I think you would have to credit Masta Ace and Marco Polo with, and I understand the Lost Tapes 2 is kind of an assortment of tracks that didn't make albums or have been sitting around for years, and they were all kind of brought together for this sequel to Lost Tapes. I get it. But that's one of the beautiful things about this A Breukelen Story is that Marco Polo's production really shines in making this sound like a complete album, and the concept of the album is adhered to throughout the duration of the project. And then Masta Ace is also doing his thing, in the booth and with the lyrical content. So this is like, and the quote that I found at the bottom really summarizes my whole review of the album. I mean, if you've been rocking with hip hop for 25, 35 years, like this Daryl McIntosh of albumism.com says, the LP is a perfect rallying cry for fans of adult contemporary hip hop. And I couldn't really say it any better. As a guy, I'm a huge R&B fan, and I mentioned this in an earlier take of this, trying to put this together. A lot of R&B artists who, went into the early 30s, their mid 30s, in the last 10 years, they gradually got pushed up into contemporary or smooth jazz category. That's where their records were being played. Stations with the jazz format. Especially as the sound of younger R&B became more so heavily influenced by hip hop. So here it is, this album right here, like where could this album even be in terms of where it fits in, and that's his lane, contemporary hip hop. And so I'll jump into some of the songs, really quickly. Kings is the first track on the album. This really harkens back to another Marco Polo beat that really caught my ear and put him on my radar as a producer to check for. Kings is very similar in many ways to Fonte's So Help Me God from his No News is Good News project. Some similarities here. So Kings really starts the album off very strong and really grabs your ear if you love production and East Coast production, and it just really sets the table for me that this isn't like an artist or an MC who's out of touch, who tried to put out an album and scrap together some beats from whatever. This really signified to me that this is a dope, like I said, this is a really dope LP that's relatable to somebody who's been listening to hip hop for 30 some years, and you went through a bunch of different stages in life, and what was dope to you at 16 and 18, and some of the harder stuff that you've listened to, as you've gotten into your career, and you're not running around the streets, you're married, you've been married for double-digit years, maybe you have kids. This is setting the tone that you're listening to a dope project. So Kings gets it jumping very nicely. Masta Ace is showing that lyrically he's still very capable on the mic. Track number 3 is pretty dope. It brings in Smith & Wesson for Breukelen.
According to Wikipedia, a microphone, colloquially named mic.
I don't know what that came from. But Breukelen is, I guess, kind of the album song, or the title song, the title track. Since Smith & Wesson is featured on here, Smith & Wesson, I don't know if they just do some ad-libs on here, but I don't believe either one of them really deliver a whole verse. I've mostly been listening to this album, cutting my grass a couple of times. I've worked out to it once or twice, and then listened to it at my job, at the desk a couple of times. I don't recall Smith & Wesson ever really breaking into a full verse. Breukelen is tight. Track number 4 is actually the video, like I mentioned, Get Shot. A lot of imagery from the streets of Brooklyn, his neighborhood, I presume. It's got a primo formula. If you get into the chorus, scratching a lot of bars from familiar ODB, Jay-Z. A lot of lines from them have been put together to make up the chorus for this one. So that's and Masta Ace's delivery on here is razor sharp. So number 4 is hot. Number 5, and that's why when I'm talking about a concept album, there was a point in time where there were 4 or 5 staple type of songs for every album. And every MC or every artist that came out wanted to have that particular song, whether it was a love song, whether it was a posse cut, or a song with 3 or 4, a collaboration song. You had that on there. You might have your club song. You might have a song where it's the whole song is a metaphor. Like I said, if you've been following the game, you know what I'm talking about. And track number 5, Still Love Her, is basically a sequel to Common's I Used to Love Her, or Her, whatever. Maybe it was just Her. And obviously Masta Ace is a couple of years older than Common, at least. And he kind of picks up to, detailing his love affair with hip-hop music over the years, likening the genre to, to a female. And it's just well done. He kind of covers some of the ground that Common covers, but he goes at it, from Ace's perspective. That's a dope song. Track number 6, You and I, is that love song that I was talking about. I remember on the Mecca and the Soul Brother with Pete Rock and CL Smooth. I'm sorry. And they had the cut on there. Lots of Lovin', I believe, was the cut. Mixed in with all, I used to, when they reminiscing over you and all of that, and then you get to Lots of Lovin', and you soften it up a little bit and speak to, the good women out there, the around the way girls and sisters. And You and I kind of, like I said, Masta Ace is 51 years old. He's probably been married to his wife a good 20, I want to say, 20 plus. And it's good to hear a mature man talking about a woman, and not objectifying her and whatnot. So I thought that was well done. Sunken Place is track 9, just commentary on the struggle, and one of the there's plenty of, speaking out, like I said, on social ills and what's going on in the community and all of that. Masta Ace addresses this in throughout the album. And what I like about it is being an older person, man, he actually calls us on the carpet as a community and raps about how we contribute to being left behind in some of the different areas, and how we the things that we've chosen as a community to invest a lot of time and energy into, how that's kind of helped hold us back in many regards. It's not just about who's doing something to you, but what we've bought into and allowed, and allowed to continuously, like I said, be barriers and hinder progress. So I think that sometimes you can't just listen to somebody that's 19, 20, 22 years old, who's just talking about the hurdles. An older man is able to tell you, give you more of a 360-degree view on the whole thing. So I think that's pretty dope. And Sunken Place, obviously coming from that phrase becoming very popular with Get Out, with the movie Get Out. That's a pretty dope one. Track number 10, Corporal Punishment, stands out because Elzhi, for Masta Ace to get on with the younger rapper, somewhat younger, not really a newer school dude. Elzhi's been around for a while, but one of the better lyricists out there. For Masta Ace to get up in a song with him and show that he can hold his own, more than hold his own, is pretty dope. So I really appreciate track number 10. And then also track number 12, Count 'Em Up. Like I said, a lot of times, we had Nas rapping from the perspective of a gun. We had Jay-Z making Diamonds like in The Girl's Best Friend, we had Tupac rapping about a gun, his gun being his girlfriend and whatnot. Here it is. Masta Ace kind of changes things up with track number 12, which is Count 'Em Up, and he's addressing the prison industrial complex and some of Ava DuVernay's stuff from her documentary 13th, just talking about the pipeline to the prison for many African Americans, and for the U.S. kind of being a prison nation, or the leading nation of imprisoned people, especially amongst advanced countries. And Masta Ace has little fame on this one, and they're just talking about basically prisons and the justice system, police forces out here, policies and all of that, how it's all contributed to kind of make a prison like a university. And Masta Ace goes into police officers are basically out recruiting young black men to fill up these prisons, and talks about the prison as being a university basically, or a school, like I said, where usually you be getting recruited to go to a university as a running back or a shooting guard or something. He's talking about prisons being filled up from the same kind of recruitment efforts. Track number 13, American Me, is more social commentary. Pretty well done joint too. 16, Wannabe. I really appreciate this Wannabe track, and it's a guest on there. It's a guest feature artist on there. But they both go into how social media and following some of these rappers and the Instagram models and whatnot, and believing everything that you see on TV and the imagery of rap, and a lot of stuff that's the ancillary opportunities that, hip hop, housewife, whatever the stuff that's on Love and Hip Hop and whatnot, buying into all of this stuff that's influencing you. It's a cost for all of that, and it's oftentimes you're not allowed to go and be who you really are to be a part of that, and to succeed in that way, or in those games. So Wannabe is very dope. And then also track number 17, 3, features EMC, which was a group that he was previously in, Masta Ace, with Wordsworth and Punchline and Strickline, I believe is the other cat's name. That's just, like I said, a posse cut, quote unquote. We haven't used that since the early 90s, I guess. But it's just brothers getting down and rhyming. And that's kind of what this album is in many respects. It's a return to the basic appreciation for music and sampling, and building music out of older music. That's what Polo does. Polo really impressed me in his mix of sampling, and then also I would imagine that he plays some instruments himself, because all of this doesn't sound sampled. And it's 3 is just 3 brothers, just with bars and metaphors and punchlines, getting it in. And then they close the album out with song number 18. There's a skit after it, I believe, actually, to close it out. But the fight song, which brings in veteran Pharaoh Monch, who I believe is also from Breukelen. And again, these are guys who have really expand on what the outlook and the mind state of a black man, 35 to 45 or 35 to 55. This really expands the conversation on what's going through a brother's mind at any given point in time. And it's like, all of the popular music out here would lead you to believe that this is, what these guys are rapping about, that's what's on the mind of any brother, any given brother at any given moment. And a lot of that, like I said, if you've been listening to hip hop 25, 30 years, a lot of this stuff does not really jive with where you are in your journey, in your walk in adulthood. And so this album, you get two veteran guys on here, well versed in living. They traveled the world. They've made a living off of hip hop, but not necessarily. I wouldn't say Pharoah Monch has done some ghostwriting to help, bring in some money here and there. But you get two guys. They're mentioning certain medical illnesses in their lyrics. They just drop content that makes you go and open a book. Nowadays you would go Google. But that's one thing that, hip hop taught me a lot when I was 16 or 14 through 20. It made me East Coast hip hop in particular caused me to go open an encyclopedia. The 80s and the 90s version of Google. You actually would go research some stuff and figure out what the hell are these guys rapping about, and where did they learn these topics, these individuals that they included in their verses. And this is a song, the fight song, where, like I said, you're getting a lot of different phrases and terms thrown at you that you might not think of on a regular basis, but as you become an older individual, start having health issues, and different, members of your family start aging, what these guys are saying, it means something. So that's a dope song. And another thing about the fight song kind of taps into what we get with some of the emotional records from Kendrick Lamar and some of the stuff that J. Cole is doing. Very dope production here, where part of the song is like a very calm, and Busta Rhymes has done this before too, but part of the song is, and LL maybe has done some stuff in a more calmer voice, and then you get into another part of the verse and you're way more animated, way more energetic. That's kind of what they do here in this fight song, is it kind of builds, each verse kind of builds to a more raucous moment in the booth and goes back to a quieter delivery. So I thought that, like I said, the concepts on some of the songs, the concept of the album is really just dope, and it's not very much fast forward material on here. I know I went very long with this review, but this is just a dope project. I'm glad that I took a moment to listen to it in its entirety, and like I said, I've rocked out with it a couple of times. And just really quickly to go back, like I said, messing around with I'm trying to find something here on what I had even done. But here, a guy that's devoted 30-something years to his life doing this thing, doing hip-hop, hasn't always, made the most money from it. But making some groundbreaking stuff at some points, at some different points. And what I was going to mention earlier, I meant to mention in the intro, coming off of the Symphony project in '88, Masta Ace really didn't have a whole lot of commercial success with his solo projects. But this Slaughterhouse album that came out in, I want to say, the early 90s, was really where he really cracked through momentarily. And then Lord Digger was a dude who actually was part of Slaughterhouse. Lord Digger actually ended up producing at least one song, but I think 2 or 3, on Notorious B.I.G.'s first record, Ready to Die. So Masta Ace has kind of always been, what's that name of that movie, like 40 Feet from Stardom or whatever? He's always been just narrowly separated from being, the man. And Slaughterhouse was a very dope project that kind of helped him get back into the charted for him. The one single on there, Jeep Ass Nah, actually came out and was remixed and became one of the only songs that really charted for I can't find what I was looking for. Here it goes. That's not it. I had another. Where did I put it? I really messed that up. Maybe I didn't add it on here. But Jeep Ass Nuh was like one of the first songs that really crossed over for Masta Ace. And then from Jeep Ass Nuh became Born to Roll, which was on the next album, which I thought I had the album cover saved for that. But Born to Roll basically came out. I'm trying to bring it up real quick if I can find it. I don't see it. That's crazy. Man, that kind of messed up my whole thought. But Born to Roll was actually remixed and became the Sitting on Chrome was the name of the album. And Sitting on Chrome had Born to Roll and INC Ride, which were kind of represented Masta Ace's best moments in terms of being having good performance in terms of record sales. So and then from there, I want to say at the end of '94-ish, was kind of slipped into anonymity. So and I apologize. I didn't have that album cover for Sitting on Chrome. But like I said, this is a little picture right here. The symphony lineup with Marley Marl. That's a Masta Ace on the end over there. Kool G Rap in the middle. To Kool G Rap's right. Big Daddy Kane. Craig G, I believe, is to Kane's right. And then maybe that's Kane's DJ. Can't think of his name off the top of my... Or maybe is that Kool G Rap's DJ? Because I don't look like the Punisher. I can't even think of Kane's old DJ's name. They ran into some trouble with his couple of situations. But yeah, man. So like I said, man, I just really wanted to take the time to talk about this album the way that I wanted to highlight it and encourage folks to get out there and check it out. That is one of the finer aspects of subscribing to some of the streaming services for music and for music lovers, is you get the opportunity to check out since you're not buying everything, you can just tap into an album, listen to it, and jump around with it, sample it. You can listen to the snippets, or like I said, I've been riding my bike lately through, getting in some exercise. I just listen to find a random artist that I like, and maybe I'll go and listen to an album that I didn't actually purchase. And I found a couple of gems out there that even as a real lover of music and hip hop, depending on what was hot at the time, I didn't buy all of this. I didn't buy everything, and I'm realizing that I missed a couple of important albums that just got rolled over when all the money really, and the multi-platinum sales and all of those guys kind of came in. The Maces, Bad Boy, and then once DMX and Jay-Z came on the scene and really, and this is after Death Row, which really might have launched, hip hop into the 4 and 5 times platinum type sales, and really forced the East Coast to step up its game. So again, a Brooklyn story. Anybody, maybe, I don't know, man. I'm 44. 38 to 44. This might be contemporary hip hop. Might be a new thing. Maybe if you saw that Big Daddy Kane clip with him spitting over in Russia, you know, adult contemporary hip hop might be, a new thing. Also, get ready for this the Ghostface Killer's album, a new album that's coming up from Ghostface Killer. He released the track list yesterday. He's another older guy that's probably, I would imagine Ghost is in the late 30s now, maybe even early 40s at this point. Probably is early 40s. But his first two, Conditioning and now Party Over Here, it's really showing that it's life after 30, it's life after 35. And Jay-Z and Nas, to some degree, have shown you longevity in the common. There's some guys that have had some longevity, but we'll see. Again, thanks for pressing play on another Pay Me No Mind video. I'm the man here that does all the cooking. Wood. Hey man, like I always in these things, you don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great. Peace.